YouTube is live, thank you.
Okay, great. Go ahead. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Committee of Adjustment, Town of Milton Committee of Adjustment and Consent. It's now 6 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. My name is Mark Kluge and I'm the chair of the committee. The 5 members of this committee are citizens of the Town of Milton and are appointed by Town Council for a 4-year term. We are appointed to act upon matters respecting the Committee of Adjustment and Consent in accordance with sections 44 and 45 of the Planning Act. The other committee members are Eric Chandler, Jeff Robinson, Tyler Slatt, and Michael Summers. Town planning staff in attendance tonight are Debbie Johnson, who is our secretary treasurer, Deborah Ito, who is our administrative assistant, and town planners are Molly Kuchma, Angela Jansen, and Natalie Stopar. Later on today's agenda, we have statutory public hearings under the Planning Act scheduled for the following properties: 651 Elliott Crescent, 10168 Guelph Line, 61 Mary Street, 52 Ann Boulevard, 95 Main Street East, and 437 George Street. Excuse me. During the course of the live meeting, those members of the public who want to make a request to speak to this public hearing item only via the phone, dial into a dedicated phone number at 1-866-511-0021, or can email us at townclerk@milton.ca, and you will be given step-by-step instructions on how to enter and participate in the meeting via phone only. Staff will work to assist each of the callers for this public meeting and will start and end each of the calls in order that they are received. These instructions will be provided again at point in the agenda that we will be holding the public hearing. We'll now move to agenda announcements. Deborah? You're still muted, Deborah.
Thank you. Good evening. Minor variance file A2-20/025/M for 10514 First Line Nasagawea has been deferred at the request of the applicant and approved by town staff. Minor variance file A2-20/028/M for 1015 McQuaig Drive has been canceled at the determination of town staff. Attached to the agenda is the proposed 2021 hearing dates. Members are asked to review and provide their acceptance to the Secretary Treasurer by December 1st, 2020.
Thank you. I do have one question about the hearing dates. Is there a reason why we're moving to 6:30 as opposed to 6? Just curiosity.
Offer to Deb.
I just thought maybe in the hopes that we might go back to in person at some point next year. So I was just going to put them at 6:30. If you prefer to leave them at 6, we can. And if we end up going back into council chambers, then we can obviously move the time.
I'll leave it up to my fellow committee members. If you can just outline your preference to Deborah or Debbie on this when you let her know your availability. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Moving now to disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does any committee member have a pecuniary conflict of interest with respect to any of the applications on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, thank you. We've already dealt with the requests for deferral, or actually there's no other deferral or withdrawals for tonight's agenda. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you very much. Some housekeeping items for all the members of the public that are in attendance. Tonight's meeting is set in the agenda. Only those matters before the committee will be discussed. This meeting is not the appropriate forum to discuss property standards issues, property taxes, or any other general complaints to the town. Please contact the town during normal business hours to discuss these and any other matters. All written correspondence provided to the Secretary Treasurer has been issued to the members and is now part of the public record and are hereby read into evidence. In order for the committee to approve an application, the majority of the members present must satisfy themselves that the application satisfies the applicable requirements of the Planning Act. If there is a tie vote, the application is denied. There's 5 of us. That won't be an issue tonight. Excuse me. Applicants or their agents will automatically receive a copy of the committee's decision. If anyone else would like a copy of the decision, please contact the committee secretary. All decisions are subject to a 20-day appeal period, during which time any decision can be appealed by anyone to the local planning appeal tribunal. If you wish to appeal a decision, please contact the committee secretary. Minutes. With respect to the minutes of our meeting dated October 8th, 2020, are there any changes or errors or omissions from my committee members? Seeing none, could I have a motion, please, to move the minutes? Mr. Chandler, a seconder?
Yeah.
Oh, you're all, oh, Mr. Slatt, thank you. Any discussion on the minutes from the members? All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Those meeting minutes have been approved. So now I will turn it over, I guess, to Deborah, who's going to start us off on our first public hearing for the agenda.
Hello. This is now the public hearing portion of the agenda. This public hearing is for minor variance application A2-20/023/M for 651 Elliott Crescent. We are now going to share a screen with the dedicated phone number and email address now to members of the public who want to make a request to speak to this application. For anyone wanting to connect, you will be given a step-by-step instructions on how to enter and participate in the meeting via phone only. We will now take a 5-minute recess to allow members of the public to connect and give our staff time to assist.
Can you go over?
Okay, so I can confirm no written or oral submissions have been received.
Thank you. So this application is A2-20/023/M for 651 Elliott Crescent. So I now call upon the applicant or their representative to speak to the application.
So I've just promoted Mr. Jeff Jansen over. He should be making his way over shortly. Mr. Jansen, you can unmute and turn on your video if you'd like, whenever you're ready.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Jansen.
Hello,
If-
everyone. Good evening.
If you could state your name and I'm assuming business address as you're acting as the agent, please.
Jeff Jansen, business address 70 Main Street, Campbellville.
And if you could tell the committee what variances you're applying for, an explanation of the purpose and reasons for the application, and why you feel it's minor in nature.
Applying for a minor variance on 2 items for this application. It's an accessory structure in the rear yard of the property at 651 Elliott. We're asking for an increase of the allowable 12 square meters based on the lot ratio to an increase to 22.3 meters, which is an increase of 10.3 from the permitted, and an increase in height from 3 meters to 3.08 meters. It's a little bit larger than a normal accessory structure that's permitted. The house where it resides is, they do not have a garage. It's a carport that's open on 3 sides. So the intention was to make this accessory structure a little bit larger to store some of his garden equipment. There's an existing gazebo that's on the property that will be removed as a condition as per the town of Milton criteria. They would like to keep that there until this gazebo is enclosed and finished to transfer their garden equipment, lawn furniture into this new accessory structure. And as that condition, they have 30 days to remove the old gazebo. Based on the size of the structure, the large rear yard and adjoining large rear yards, we feel that this minor variance is minor in nature and is suitable for the area.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does any member have questions of town staff or the applicant, agent at this time? Mr. Chandler?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a question of town staff. Coming up with the calculation of 22.3 meters, square meters, does that calculation include the overhangs?
Good evening. Through you, Mr. Chair. I believe that is just the gross floor area, not including the overhang. So it's the walls as well as the deck area surrounding the proposed structure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, sorry. Okay.
Can I flag myself?
Mr. Jansen, we hear you. Either
Oh,
are you
sorry.
trying to respond, or can we just
Yeah,
mute
sorry,
you really
I-
quick for now?
Sorry, I have a quick question for Molly regarding the description for lot coverage.
Go ahead.
Molly, quick question. When you said to the outer perimeters of the walls, as mentioned, there is a deck around this particular accessory structure. Would that go to the outer edge of the post around the deck structure?
Through you, Mr. Chair, if you just give me 1 second to take a look at the document that we were provided by zoning, it'll give me that information. Just bear with me for 1 second here. Through you, Mr. Chair, based on the drawing and information I have from zoning, it's the outer edges of 2 sides of the shed and to the outside of the surrounding deck.
Is that acceptable, Mr. Jansen?
So my question to the committee members, we sent these drawings in to the town staff, and I believe it was calculated to the outer edge of the post. So I'm not sure if this variance of the increased meter squared could be slightly increased to the outer edge of the deck, because I believe then there was a strip of that deck that was not counted then.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we're looking at the 22.3 square meters that are based on the site plan that was provided. If Mr. Jansen can clarify, is it actually larger than the square that's shown on the site plan?
Go to the site plan.
So on our site plan that was provided, it shows that the new shed and deck are 240 square feet or 22.3 square meters.
That is correct, Molly. It does show it to the dotted line to the deck, but the deck does protrude a little bit past the dotted line on the portion that's facing the rear of the house. That is where beyond the post slightly, about 1'4". So I'm not sure if a motion could be tonight done to increase that slightly, and I can give you that area that it might increase this lot percentage by like 0.2% possibly. Is that something that could be done?
I don't see why not. I mean, if we all agree to amend it, if there was an issue with the calculation, I mean, it's not overly large. I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, Molly, we have to calculate, because that's been the bane of my existence, is these covered porches or covered decks. We have to include everything, like the larger square. Is that correct?
That, through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. And we were going off the calculations that were provided on the drawing. So these drawings are what have been reviewed, and it's what was circulated to the public as well. I don't foresee a issue if it's a matter of rounding up slightly to accommodate a slight overhang of the deck boards if that's necessary and if the committee deems that to be appropriate. But I would ask that Mr. Jansen do a slight calculation, and I'll do one here on my end as well to see if I come up with the same number. But that's something that I would like to have verified. And if it's off when the application for building permit comes in, they wouldn't be able to issue the building permit if it's not the same. So that's something that we should clarify for sure.
So at this point in time, I'm going to let Molly and Mr. Jensen work on the calculations, and then I'm turning to the committee members. Does anyone, yes or no, have an issue if we amend the application at this time to slightly increase it to cover off that overhang? I'm not seeing an issue from anybody. Deborah, I don't know how that affects your paperwork with Debbie, but we'll wait to hear back from Molly and Mr. Jensen. Okay.
For you, Mr. Chair, I just have one question for Mr. Jansen. Can you confirm, so that I'm looking at the right dimensions, that it's 17.5 feet wide, and it would be then 1.5 feet deeper?
Let me just, sorry, Molly, 17.5 feet. No, I'm going to give you the correct dimension here. So 17'5" front to back to the roof, if we go by the roof. So sorry. I'm going to clarify that right now. So yeah, 17'5" would be to the overhang by, I have 18'6" would be to the overhang, just to be safe.
Yep.
So 17.417 times 18.5, a total of 322 square feet. To meters is 29.94 meters squared, rounded off.
29.94 square meters.
Yeah, and I guess we subtract 12 square meters from that. Would be 17.9 over.
So through you, Mr. Chair, one way we could go about doing this just to ensure that the decision is written correctly is we could also include an indication that we're allowing an increase to a total area that includes the overhang and the roof, that we're providing both dimensions into the decision so that there's no concern that if we're allowing an increase in gross floor area, it could actually result in them constructing something larger than what we see here.
Yeah.
So that's something that we can include as a condition in the decision as well.
That makes sense, because we don't want the building to be as big as, I guess, 30 square meters, because that includes the overhang and whatnot. So however we have to alter that decision, and then one of my committee members are going to have to read that in terms of a recommendation that we can vote on. I'm just going to ask my committee members, do any of you have an issue with what the planner has proposed to move this along? I'm not seeing any issues with that, so I'm gonna leave it to Molly and to Deborah and Debbie to come up with the proper wording and then let us know what we're supposed to read, basically.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair, do you mind just giving me 1 minute while I just call Deborah here and I'll call her separate?
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's large overhang. That's fine.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair. So I've just spoken with Debbie and Mr. Jansen for your information. So what I've done is zoning reviewed the elevations in the site plan that were provided, and they are the ones that identified the gross floor area. So what I've recommended Debbie do is include the site plan and the elevations to form part of the decision. So that's identified in the decision that we've amended, but we've also added an item that refers to the total area of the entire roof being 29.94 square meters. And again, referring it back to the attached site plan and elevation so that it covers our bases. I'm going on the assumption that these plans are the exact ones that are also going to be submitted as part of the building permit as well. So long as they're not changing, zoning reviews both the minor variance application and the site plan. So I want to go on the assumption that they're doing their jobs correctly and the number that they did provide us is the correct one, but also providing a small amount of flexibility in case there was some error, that the decision is based on these exact drawings, if that makes sense to you.
That does. Do any of the committee members have any questions of the planner regarding the revision? Okay, so confirming that, thank you, Molly and Mr. Jensen and Debbie and Deborah for that. I appreciate it. Confirming that there are no public wanting to speak onto this application. The public session is closed. I'm going to move this now back to the committee. Is there any member prepared to make a motion? I need one of you to move the application. Mr. Slatt, thank you. Now, before we start, does Mr. Slatt need to coordinate with Debbie and Deborah regarding what he's reading?
So basically, the only thing that we're going to be changing is the resolution, the decision. We're just going to amend item 1 and add item 3. So if I read out of the revised item 1, then you can move it and I'll add number 3, and then you can move and second it that way. Is that okay with everybody?
Mr. Slatt, is that okay with you?
Yeah, so I would continue to read the decision that we were already provided, and Debbie will add anything.
You would just with the condition. Oh, so I'm adding those to the conditions, right, Molly? Okay. So this is a condition. Okay. So just okay, so minor variance application under section 45(1) of the Planning Act, file A2-20-023M to the Milton Committee of Adjustment and Consent, requesting permission to allow an increase in total gross floor area permitted for an accessory structure building to 23.3 meters, as identified on the site plan and elevations attached and forming to this decision. The second variance is fine. So when we go to the decision, the conditions, there'll be a 4th condition added that says,
so if I just may, just quickly, Debbie, for this one, why don't you actually read the entirety, and then once you've finished up, we can actually just get Mr. Tyler to just confirm that he is in fact okay with moving it in its entirety.
Okay. Okay, so therefore it's the decision of the committee that minor variance application A2-20-023 be approved with the following conditions. 1, that building permits be applied for and received prior to continuation of construction of the accessory structure. That the existing gazebo be removed within 30 days of final inspection of the new accessory structure. That the approval be subject of an expiry of 1 year from the date of decision if the conditions are not met, if the proposed development does not proceed and or a building permit is not secured. That the total area including overhangs be 29.94 square meters as identified in the site plan and elevations attached to this decision and forming part of the decision.
I'd like to make a motion that this application be approved based on those conditions.
Thank
Could
you.
could I have a seconder, please? Mr. Summers, thank you. So, is there any comments or further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'm going to take a recorded vote. As I call out your name, please respond in favor or opposed to the motion. Mr. Chandler,
In favor?
Mr. Robinson,
In favor?
Mr. Slatt,
In favor?
Mr. Summers? Mr. Summers?
Mr. Summers, you're still muted. Sorry about that. Still muted, Mr. Summers. No, it's still muted. But I do think you had said we can give you a minute or two to get the hang of that. But I do think if you want to give us a thumbs up, I believe that you said you were in favor. Oh, there we go.
I'm in favor, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
And
you.
I'm in
Sorry.
favor. Sorry, I'm in favor as well. Secretary Treasurer, could you record the vote, please?
The vote is recorded.
Thank you. So the motion carries and the variances have been approved with the conditions that were all discussed during the meeting. There is a 20-day appeal period. If there is no appeal, then the applicant has approval to proceed subject to the conditions imposed by the committee. So that application is done. Thank you all very much for your patience and understanding. We're moving now to the second application on the agenda, and I will turn this over to Deborah.
This is now the public hearing portion of the agenda. This public hearing is for minor variance application file A2-20/024-M for 10168 Guelph Line. We are now going to share a screen with the dedicated phone number and email address to members of the public who want to make a request to speak to this application. For anyone waiting to connect, you will be given step-by-step instructions on how to enter and participate in the meeting via phone only. We will now take a 5-minute recess to allow members of the public to connect and to give our staff time to assist.
Okay, hi everyone. I can confirm no written and no oral submissions were received.
Thank you. So moving on to the second item. This application is for file A2-20/024/M for 10168 Guelph Line. I call upon the applicant or the representative to speak to the application, please.
So I have promoted Mr. Harry Layover. Mr. Harry, you can unmute and turn on your video whenever you're ready. Mr. Harry, you are now one of the participants. If you want to just unmute and turn on your video.
Unmute. Can you hear me now, please?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Harry Lay. I'm Harry Lay Architect. The address for the office is 554 Spadina Crescent in Toronto. And I'm representing the owners of the property who, as a hobby, enjoy the use of antique cars. Storage of the cars can't be accommodated within the existing garage that's attached to the home. And the proposed location for a new garage needs to be in proximity to the owner's home and to work with the existing landscape. The variance request is to permit the decrease of the interior side yard to 1.5 meters, a difference of 6 meters for the proposed location. It is minor, I believe, in nature and appropriate to the context. Because of proximity to the existing domestic septic field and to the house itself, the garage is best located by pushing it further north on the site. May I point out to the committee that the proposal conforms with all other aspects of the zoning bylaw, namely coverage, height, front and rear setbacks. And may I mention as well that the owner has consulted with the property owner to the north with whom the property line is shared, Mr. Warris, and my owners confirmed that they have the support of Mr. Warris for this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lay. Are there any questions from the members to either Mr. Lay or planning staff at this time? Seeing none and confirming that there is no public in attendance, I'm going to close the public session. I'm going to turn it again now to the committee. If there are no questions or concerns or comments, I am looking for a member to prepare to make a motion on this application, please. Mr. Chandler.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd recommend that the application be approved with the following conditions: that building permits be applied for and received prior to construction of the enclosed garage, of the detached garage. Second, that the structure be used for storage of personal vehicles and items only and will not be habitable. And thirdly, that the approval be subject of an expiry of 2 years from the date of decision if the conditions are not met, if the proposed development does not proceed, and or a building permit is not secured.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Robinson, thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion, gentlemen? Seeing none, I'm going to take a recorded vote. As I call out your name, please respond with in favor or opposed to the motion. Mr. Chandler.
In favor.
Mr. Robinson.
In favor.
Mr. Slatt.
In favor.
Mr. Summers.
Sorry,
You are
Mr. Summers, you have to unmute again.
All right, on favor.
in favor?
Favor, correct, yes.
Thank you. And I'm in favor as well. Deborah, if you could take a recorded vote. You're muted, Deborah.
The vote has been recorded. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the motion carries. Variances have been approved. There is a 20-day appeal period, and if there is no appeal, then the applicant has approval to proceed, subject to the conditions imposed by this committee. Thank you very much. We will turn it over to Deborah again for the third item on the agenda.
This public hearing is for minor variance application file A2-20-026-M for 61 Mary Street. We are now going to share a screen with a dedicated phone number and email address to members of the public who want to make a request to speak on this application. For anyone wanting to connect, you will be given step-by-step instructions on how to enter and participate in the meeting via phone only. We will now take a 5-minute recess to allow members of the public to connect and give our staff time to assist.
Okay, I can confirm no oral or written submissions were received.
Thank you. So, third item on the agenda is this application is for A2-20/026M for 61 Mary Street. If I could have the applicant or representative to speak to the application, please.
So I promoted Mr. Jeff Jansen over again. Mr. Jansen, you just have to unmute again.
Oh, all right.
So
Good
you know
evening
the drill,
again,
Mr.
everyone.
Jensen.
Yes. So the application here is for extending behind the garage for a covered amenity area. So basically, they don't want to add to the back of the home. So what they want to do is extend the rear portion of the deck to have some more covered amenity area for their enjoyment in the rear yard. They figured that was the best location for it based on the site plan where they're not pushing out the back of the home. They figured they'd use this unusable kind of space behind the garage. So we're asking for a lot coverage increase based on an increase of 1.9% for this covered area.
Okay, thank you. You didn't state your name and
Oh,
work
sorry.
address,
Sorry.
but I think we're okay because you were in earlier, so they can fill that in, so no worries.
No problem.
So, do any members have questions of Mr. Jensen or staff on this application? Seeing none and confirming that there are no public in attendance, I'm going to close the public session and I'm turning it back over to the committee. If there is no discussion or questions, is any member prepared to make a motion on this application, please? Mr. Slatt, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that minor variance application A2-20/026/M be approved with the following conditions. That the applicant submit a building permit application within 2 years from the date of this decision, and that the applicant provide confirmation from the Town of Milton Development Coordinator Finance that all municipal property taxes have been paid.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder, please? Mr. Chandler, thank you very much. Is there any discussion on the motion, gentlemen? Seeing none, I'm going to take a recorded vote. As I call out your name, please respond in favor or opposed to the motion. Mr. Chandler,
In favor.
Mr. Robinson,
In favor.
Mr. Slatt,
In favor.
Mr. Summers,
In favor.
and I'm in favor as well. Secretary Treasurer, if you could record the vote, please.
The vote has been recorded. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the motion carries and the variances have been approved with conditions. There is a 20-day appeal period. If there is no appeal, then the applicant has approval to proceed, subject to the conditions imposed by the committee. Thank you very much. We are going to move on to the fourth item. So I will turn that back over to Deborah.
Deborah, you just have to
You're
unmute.
There you go.
This public hearing is for minor variance application file A2-20-027-M for 52 Ann Boulevard. We are now going to share a screen with a dedicated phone number and email address to members of the public who want to make a request to speak to this application. For anyone wanting to connect, you will be given step-by-step instructions on how to enter and participate in the meeting via phone only. We will now take a 5-minute recess to allow members of the public to connect and give our staff time to assist.
Okay, everyone, confirm no written or oral submissions.
Thank you. So the next application on our agenda is for file A2-20/027M for 52 Ann Boulevard. If I could have the applicant or the agent, I believe it's
I have-
Mr. Jensen.
Yes, I promoted Mr. Jansen over for a third time. Mr. Jansen, you just have to unmute whenever you're ready.
Hello, everyone again.
Hello,
Hello.
please, we can go right to the variances that you're applying for, please.
Yes, we're applying for a minor variance for an increase in lot coverage. This is a back split house, so they're always difficult when you want to add to them. So we're adding to the rear behind the garage as per the drawings attached, which would basically become a two-story addition behind the garage. We're asking for a minor variance for lot coverage as per the drawings provided. The new addition behind the garage will not exceed the rear of the existing dwelling, which is great. It gives them ample backyard, and a very large side yard as well, 9 feet. So we're asking for an increase in lot coverage based on the increased area they desire. They're a young couple with a young family and growing, so they need a little extra elbow room for some bedrooms. So we're asking for an increase from a 25% permitted lot coverage based on the size of the lot to an increase to 29.2%, which is 4.2% increase from the permitted lot coverage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Jensen.
Thank you.
Do any of the committee members have questions of staff or the applicant at this time? Okay, seeing none and noting that there is no, I'm sorry, did someone say something? Nope, okay. There is no public in attendance, so the public session is closed. I'm turning it back over to the committee. If there are no questions or comments at this time, I'm seeking a member prepared to make a motion, please, on this application. Mr. Chandler, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd recommend that the application be approved with the following conditions: that a building permit be applied for and received prior to construction of the proposed addition. Second, that the applicant provide confirmation from the Town of Milton Development Coordinator Finance that all municipal property taxes have been paid. And thirdly, that the approval be subject of an expiry of 2 years from the date of decision if the conditions are not met, if the proposed development does not proceed, and/or a building permit is not secured.
Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Summers. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion, gentlemen? Seeing none, before we go to the recorded vote, I don't see Mr. Robinson on the meeting anymore. Has he, Deborah, did he indicate that he had to leave, or was there a technical problem? We don't know.
We did not hear from him.
Okay, well, I'll continue because we still have quorum. That's fine. So I'm going to take a recorded vote. As I call out your name, please respond in favor or opposed to the motion. Mr. Chandler?
In favor?
Mr. Slatt?
In favor.
Mr. Summers?
In favor.
And I'm in favor as well. So the motion carries and the variance has been approved with the noted conditions. There is a 20-day appeal period. If there is no appeal, then the applicant has approval to proceed subject to the conditions imposed by the committee. Oh,
I'm really sorry about that. I'm actually, I noticed Mr. Robinson is in the attendees.
yes.
And it's quite possible, actually, it is very entirely possible that was a mistake on my end. I apologize. I've brought him back. Sorry about that.
I'm going to ask then, Mr. Robinson, are you in favor or opposed to the motion?
In favor.
All right, there we go. Thank you. We'd lost you there for a minute. I didn't know where you went. Okay. Good. So that concludes the fourth item on the agenda. I will now turn it back over to Deborah to take us to item number 5.
This public hearing is for minor variance application A2-20-029-M for 95 Main Street East. We are now going to share a screen with the dedicated phone number and email address to members of the public who want to make a request to speak to this application. For anyone wanting to connect, you will be given step-by-step instructions on how to enter and participate in the meeting via phone only. We will now take a 5-minute recess to allow members of the public to connect and to give our staff time to assist.
Okay, hi everyone. So no verbal or written comments for this one either.
Thank you very much. This application is, is A2-20/029M for 95 Main Street East. I call upon the applicant or their representatives to speak to the application, please. Oh, I think you're
There
there.
we go.
There, Marina, Miss. Hello, if you could state your name and home address or business address if you are acting as the agent.
Hello, my name is Marina Houseon. I'm an architect at Green Propeller Design. We're the agent for the applicant.
If you could tell the committee what variances you are applying for, an explanation of the purpose and reasons for the application, and why you feel it's minor in nature.
Right. The proposal that's being applied for is a minor addition to the rear of a lovely heritage home at 95 Main Street. It's the first building west of St. Paul's. There are no changes proposed to the front of the building. The picture on the screen is the existing condition at the back of the building. And the proposal is to make an entrance vestibule under what you see there as the deck, as an attachment to the existing single-story rear addition, to make it usable for the interior. So I think the variances are technical in nature. The first one is to allow the existing parking, which is adequate if you calculate the parking as the whole, like based on the whole building area, including the new, rather than adding one space for this tiny additional area. The second one is because the existing driveway that you see in the picture here on the right-hand side is quite narrow. And although the turning circles into the parking area are quite adequate and the setback from the building to the theoretical parking aisle are compliant, there's a pinch point at the corner here, which you see in the middle of the picture, where we cannot produce a 2.2 meter setback from the building to the drive aisle. That's the second one. And the third one is something you have come across many times as we work with existing heritage buildings in the downtown, that the bylaw requires buildings to be 3 stories tall. And this addition is only 1, and the existing building is only 2. So it doesn't comply with the bylaw because the bylaw says that it should be 3 stories, which clearly is not appropriate for this application. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the applicant or staff at this time?
Mr. Chair, if I could
Yes.
just ask Debbie, there was an email came through a couple of minutes ago. Was there a revised drawing to go with this submission?
Yes, so the drawing, the site plan that I provided to you with the planning report was a marked up version. I've just emailed you the final version of the site plan. And Natalie wanted you to have the final version without any markups.
I don't know about the other members, but I couldn't open the drawing on my phone. So without leaving this meeting or leaving the meeting, are you able to describe what the change is at all?
I'll
I'm gonna
refer
ask-
to, I'll
Sorry.
refer
Seth,
to
through you,
Natalie.
Mr. Chair. Debbie, are you able to share your screen to show the revised drawing?
We can make it so Debbie can share her screen.
Thank you.
Okay, Debbie, did that work? Do you want to give it a shot now?
I'm just pulling up the drawing before I try and share the screen. It's taking a while. Wait a second. Okay, so here we, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I can just describe the changes just to make them a bit more apparent. So with the original application that was circulated, there were 8 parking spaces shown, and the site statistics included 8 parking spaces. But I confirmed with zoning staff that there's only 7 parking spaces that are currently approved for the site. So the drawing was just revised to show the 7 existing parking spaces and to indicate that there's only 7 parking spaces on the property.
So thank you. I do have one other question. In the top right-hand corner where it says treatment room, on the documentation we got, it looked like there was another addition on that side of the building that made it larger, that squared it out. Sorry, not doing well with English today. But on this map here, on this plan here, it doesn't show the addition. It only shows the addition under the deck, not the addition on the other side of the property. And when I was out today, the owner said, oh yeah, we're doing the addition under the deck and on the other side as well. So I just want to make sure that we have the right drawing, that we're all looking at the right drawing. And I don't know, I'll either the applicant or the planner, if you could comment on that, please.
So through you, Mr. Chair, so that's correct. So that looks like another error on the site plan. The original site plan that was circulated shows a proposed addition of 13.2 square meters for the larger portion. And then for the treatment room, there's another smaller addition that's 3.2 square meters. So that's what was reviewed through the variance application and recommended by staff. The only change to the plan should have been that the 1 parking space was removed that wasn't previously approved by the town. So there's only 7 parking spaces on the site. So I'm just taking a look at the recommended conditions here to see if there's a way we can change them without a revised plan. Sorry, just give me 2 moments.
In looking at it, I think it's fine, Schedule A, as long as it's the right site plan is attached to the documentation. That's all I'm concerned about. And as long as the applicant is okay that it's 7 spaces and it's 2 additions on the site plan, I think we're okay. But I'll wait to hear from Natalie.
Could we also confirm at the same time, is one of those parking spaces an accessible space?
Yeah.
Through
So
you,
Mr. Yeah. So through Mr. Chair, just to answer the first question. So it might be best then to keep the site plan that was attached with the comments with the red lines indicating that the 1 parking space was not previously approved, because it shows the areas of the additions appropriately. And the intent of my recommendation to attach the site plan is to make it clear that the reduced building height is only applied to those 2 portions or those 2 additions that are proposed. To answer the second question, the site doesn't currently have an accessible parking space on site. It's a gravel parking lot that was built, many years ago, before accessible parking spaces were required. So they're not required at this time to provide an accessible parking spot, but there is an accessible parking spot in the municipal lot just adjacent to this property that has a clear path of travel from the sidewalk to the front of the building.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of either the applicant or the town planner on this application? Seeing none and confirming that there is no public present, I'm going to close the public session. And I'm turning it back over to the committee now. If there's no further discussion on the application, is there any member prepared to make a motion on this application? Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move that minor variance application 82-20029M be approved with the following 3 conditions. 1, that the applicant submit a building permit application within 2 years from the date of this decision. 2, that building elevations be submitted to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning, Policy, and Urban Design. And 3, that the attached site plan form part of this decision as Schedule A, and that the minimum building height of 1 story and 4.5 meters be limited to area of the proposed additions only.
Thank you. A seconder? Mr. Slatt, thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'm going to take a recorded vote. As I call out your name, please respond in favor or opposed to the motion. Mr. Chandler,
In favor?
Mr. Robinson,
In favor.
Mr. Slatt,
In favor.
Mr. Summers,
In favor?
and I'm in favor as well. Deborah, if you could record the vote, please. You're muted.
The vote has been recorded. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The motion carries and the variances have been approved with conditions. There is a 20-day appeal period. If there is no appeal filed, then the applicant has approval to proceed, subject to the conditions imposed by the committee. Thank you very much, everyone. Moving on to the last item for the public participation, I will turn this back over to Deborah.
This public hearing is for minor variance application A2-20-030-M for 437 George Street. We are now going to share a screen with the dedicated phone number and email address to members of the public who want to make a request to speak on this application. For anyone wanting to connect, you will be given a step-by-step instructions on how to enter and participate in the meeting via phone only. We will now take a 5-minute recess to allow members of the public to connect and to give our staff time to assist.
This one's going to be the
Okay, no, no calls and no written submissions.
Thank you. So the final application on tonight's agenda is for A2-20/030M for 437 George Street. If I could have the applicant or their representative speak to the application, please.
So they actually promoted both the applicant and the owner. Oh, there they are. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, committee members, chair. I'm Gabriel Guiducci. I'm the agent representing the owner of 437 George Street.
And if you, sir, could state your business and your business address, please.
I am Geometra Design Ltd. We're in Toronto at 269 St. John's Road.
Thank you. If you could tell the committee what variances you're applying for, an explanation of the purpose and reasons for the application, and why you feel it's minor in nature.
Yes, we're here in front of you with a proposal of building a two-story detached dwelling on an undersized lot. We have some, to some extent, technical variances attached to our proposal in relation to reduction in rear yard setback, an increase in the lot coverage, and an increase in the size of the landing by definition.
Okay, thank you. Do any committee members have questions of staff or the agent at this time? I do have one quick question to the planner, and I don't know if you can answer this. I'm assuming it's Natalie. Was this, everyone has said it's an undersized lot, and that was in your report. Was this severed off the property to that fronts onto Ontario Street? Just, I don't know if you have the answer to that.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, I did do some research and I couldn't find the application or the severance application, but I do suspect that is what happened. A while ago, all our consent to sever applications actually went to the region of Halton, so I suspect that if there's any records that they're there, but that's my best guess as to what happened.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Confirming that there is no public in attendance, I'm going to close the public session. If the committee has no other questions or comments for either the applicant or the planner, seeing none, is any member prepared to make a motion on this application? Mr. Slatt, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that minor variance application A2-20/030-/M be approved with the following conditions: that the applicant submit a building permit application within 2 years from the date of this decision, that the applicant apply for an entrance permits for the driveway in accordance with bylaw 035-2020, and that the attached site plan form part of this decision as Schedule A, and that the single detached dwelling be substantially constructed in accordance with Schedule A.
Thank you. Could a seconder, please? Mr. Chandler, thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will take a recorded vote. As I call out your name, please respond in favor or opposed to the motion. Mr. Chandler?
In favor.
Mr. Robinson?
In favor.
Mr. Slatt?
In favor.
Mr. Summers?
In favor.
And I'm in favor as well. If the Secretary Treasurer could record the vote, please.
The vote has been recorded. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the motion carries and the variances have been approved with the conditions. This is subject to a 20-day appeal period. If there is no appeal, then the applicant has approval to proceed, subject to the conditions imposed by the committee. Thank you all very much. That concludes the public portion or public participation portion. So we're going to move on now to new business. Deborah?
Yes, we have some new business and we'd like to get Natalie Stofar to speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
So through Mr. Chair, we just wanted to provide the committee with a brief update on the new official plan and zoning bylaw amendment for the character area, as well as the interim control bylaw that was passed by council for the mature neighborhoods outside of the character area. because we do see so many minor variance applications within these particular areas of town. So back on October 19th, so 2 Mondays ago, Council passed an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment for the downtown character area in accordance with the mature neighborhood study. So those were approved, but they're still within the appeal period. So they're not quite in effect yet. If we don't receive any appeals, then they'll come into effect in the middle of November. There are some exemptions that are made within the zoning bylaw amendment application for like minor variances or for the zoning bylaw regulations that apply to existing building permits or existing site plan applications that the town has received. So moving forward, if we have any minor variance applications within that area, staff within our reports will be pretty specific as to which policies apply at the time of writing our reports, just so the committee is clear on that. In regards to the interim control bylaw, so that was passed for properties within mature neighborhoods, or what's defined as mature neighborhoods outside of the character area. And that's in place for a period of a year until the town completes a study and confirms if any changes to the policies for those areas or the zoning bylaw regulations for those areas is warranted. So that's currently in effect. So there's no appeal period associated with that. But there are some exemptions within the interim control bylaw as well for applications that were made before it was in effect. 437 George Street is an example of that. So we received that minor variance application before council passed this interim control bylaw. And that's why we were able to hear that application today. And it also has some exemptions for minor additions where the height matches the height of the existing building and there's some caps on floor area and those sorts of things. So with the interim control bylaw area, we could see some minor variance applications. Those are still permitted under the Planning Act. But we do have to evaluate those applications based on both the intent of the interim control bylaw as well as the intent of our current zoning bylaw regulations. So those will be a bit more of a challenge moving forward. But again, staff will just describe in detail within our comments what applies, what's in effect at the time of hearing those applications.
Mr. Chandler.
Yes, thank you, Natalie, for that. Just a question with regard to timing and the process, because I'm not sure where we are kind of in this special year here with respect to when applications were submitted and coming forward to the committee. So with respect to the new OPA, assuming it comes, there's no appeals, comes into effect mid-November. Timing wise, when might the committee see a reflection of those policies coming forward in the staff reports for our applications? About what month would it be? January or?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we already have quite a number of applications in for the November meeting. And with those ones, like we'll have to take a look. I believe most of them were submitted before the bylaw will come into effect. So they'll have different policies that apply. So it's likely not until like the December or January meetings that we might start to receive applications within the character area where we have those new OP and zoning bylaw amendment policies that apply. There's always some exceptions though. So if there was a site plan application made 3 months ago within that area and they want to apply for a minor variance, they are permitted to do that. And the old zoning bylaw regulations would still apply to those properties.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And that's great that this is finally coming forward. Good on town staff. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Oops, no, yeah, that's right. I'm not muted. Sorry. Are there any other questions of Natalie regarding that? Thank you very much. That's very helpful. And you continue to keep us up to speed on things. So thank you and kudos to all the staff on that. Thank you very much. Are there any other new items of business that anyone else has? There's one more on the agenda. And that is our next regular hearing is scheduled for Thursday, November 26, 2020 at 6 p.m. So if there is no other business, I declare that this meeting is now adjourned at 7:41 p.m. Thank you all, everyone, for participating and for your patience, and we will see you next month. Have a good night, everybody.